Hi, everyone. Welcome to Webster University Friday noon lecture. This is the third one this semester. It is so good to see all of you. I just couldn't help myself catching up with the alarm that's saying hi, and I love to have another opportunity to get back and talk with you more. And I love seeing some of you in the same room together. Hi, Andrew, behind Namina. If you guys could help me, write down on the chat where you are, where you are joining us in. If you are around, let us know what year you graduate. Maybe we can kind of start learning about each other in there too. Today, we have a great gift from New York, Yevgenia Nayberg, and I am going to ask our Igor Crush to introduce her, but I just wanted to mention about how great it is that Igor was nice enough to help us to bring Xenia to this Friday noon lecture. Igor Kalash is our adjunct faculty and leading our illustration program for last, is that 5 years? Has been maybe a little bit more longer, 5 years. I'm sorry, I didn't get the number.
Yeah.
It has been it's a really, really popular program at Webster University, and Igor has been doing amazing job. So thank you, Igor, for bringing Xenia. And here's the Igor class.
All right. I'll try not to take too much time from Xenia, from Yevgenia, our wonderful guest again. And thank you, Norika, Ryan, everybody who helped to organize this event. And if I can say something good about this pandemic times we're living, I think the only good thing is that it made it so easier to bring, top talent from all over the world. And so I'm super excited to bring Yevgenia Nayberg and introduce to our design art illustration community. She's one of my favorite illustrators on this planet. And maybe one reason for that, maybe we share some cultural and artistic roots. We both are from former Soviet Union, but she's much younger, and the big difference that she went through her college education, her scenic design degree here in the States, right, Zhenya? And this makes her experiences much more different and probably more adequate and more related to everybody's here in this audience. So Yevgenia Nayberg is amazing storyteller. And that's basically goes through everything, this quality goes through everything what she does in theater, in theatrical poster, in editorial work, illustration, where she works with author, or her own story that she makes into this level of sophisticated, amazing picture books that are exciting for anybody. For small kids, for older kids, for adults, and just amazing art. Her latest achievements include awards at NAMI concourse in South Korea. Her recent work, latest picture books, Mona Lisa in New York, and Typewriter on the shelves of Museum of Modern Art in New York. That's probably best thing could happen to artists. She just recently received 3x3 Merit Award for Mona Lisa in New York. And also art from the book is part of exhibit of original art at Society of Illustrators in New York. So there's definitely a lot to say about achievements and what she does, but I'll rather give mic to Yevgenia, and welcome to St. Louis. DADAH.
Thank you, Igor. What an introduction. It's
yeah,
quite impressive.
You deserved it.
Can you hear me? Just to make sure. Yes. Okay, great. I'm always worried that the last moment something will cut off and it's over. So I'm going to probably just start talking and showing you what I've done in the past, in the recent years, and maybe we'll look back in some older stuff just so you have an idea of what my background was or what I've been going through. And I think the most important thing to know is that no matter what you do, whether it's illustration or fine art, painting, or theater design in my case, the story is always the same. I think there are so many similarities in how you approach that world and that storytelling conceptually. And the language is slightly different, but I think the ideas are the same. And sort of the visual bank of those ideas is the same. So I'm going to start sharing. And please tell me if you can see anything. Can you guys see? Okay. So I'll just give you, this is a little glimpse into my childhood. So like Igor said, I was born in a country that is no more, in the Soviet Union, and in Kiev. Kiev still stands. And now it's a different country, it's Ukraine. And this is me at about the age of 5. And next to it is my first self-portrait, or my first known self-portrait, also at the age of 5, called Self-Portrait with a Mirror, and 5 fingers. So I knew that I was very observant at that age and knew that you have to count those. And next to it is actually mosaics from the Palace of the Young Pioneers. And that was the place where I took my first art lessons, also at the age of 5. And so it doesn't look like a palace at all, but seemed like a palace at the time. So the Young Pioneers were this organization, kind of like Boy Scouts of America, but it was a similar organization in the Soviet Union, slightly politicized. And they used to wear the red ties, so sort of the Boy Scout style as well. So when I came back about 10 years ago, I went and visited the palace, and nothing changed. It still didn't look palatial in any way. But what changed is that they did paint it over the red ties. So no more Young Pioneers. Now we just have, I guess, the youth of the future, which kind of looks like the youth of the past. Oops. So when I came to the States a while ago in '94, I've been doing some illustration already in high school, back home in Kiev, mostly children's illustrations for children's magazines. So fairy tales, for some reason, fairy tales were really common, and I did a lot of those. But when I came to the States, I wanted to do something different. So I started looking for a field that was sort of similar and metaphorical and had enough of storytelling components, and something where I could use my love for literature but not necessarily illustration. So I thought of theater, and that's how I ended up studying theater and got my master's degree in theater design. And I designed over 40 productions all over the States, both sets and costumes. And this is one of the examples, and I worked with a really wonderful director on this one, whose name is Barbara Berlovitz, and she used to be an artistic director at the wonderful theater called Theater de la Jeune Lune in Minneapolis. So this is the production of Romeo and Juliet. And just like with any story, with any book, or anything that we've known for a while, something like Romeo and Juliet, you usually try to find your own take on the story. And just before this production, I traveled to Spain, to Barcelona, and I was really smitten with the street art that they have, with the graffiti. I don't think, well, definitely not in Russia growing up, but also I used to live in Los Angeles, and not so much in Los Angeles. New York is different, but I've never seen so much street art as I saw in Barcelona. It was very specific. It was very Spanish. It was very unique, very unusual, very artistic. And I just came back from Spain 2 weeks ago, and I went to Barcelona, and I was hoping to revisit those graffiti. And I must say that they changed a lot, and they're much more commercialized now. And you can see how globalization affects everything, including the graffiti, because sort of that uniqueness was sort of gone, and things looked much more like New York City, which upset me a little bit because I really enjoyed that very special to the region quality of street art. So going back to this show, I was so under the influence of street art in Spain, and I wanted something similar in this production. And I thought about opportunities in general and how the lives of Romeo and Juliet could have gone differently and how we never know what to expect from life. And I thought about all the doors that open and close for us at any moment. And that sort of became the theme of that particular production. Because obviously, every time we go to a theater, we hope that people wouldn't go just to confirm the original ideas about the production or the play. I hope, or my hope, is that people would look to discover something new. And for this production, we created many different doors of different sizes, and characters went through those doors. And there was also this empty city fountain in the middle, and some things sort of rotated around that. And eventually the fountain became the crypt where Juliet was buried and where they died. So you can see the sketch, my original sketch for the production here, and then you can see the graffiti. It was a really interesting experience because I did it in Connecticut, this production, a very white, rich neighborhood, and I asked if they knew any students interested in street art who would want to help me. And they said, no, we don't have that. We don't have students who ruin the walls. And I called the art department and I said, maybe you know someone who would like to help me, maybe you know some graffiti lovers. And they said, sure. And suddenly one day, this very nerdy white kids appeared, nerdy Connecticut kids, and they brought the stickers and the spray paint. And they said, oh my God, we never get a chance to do anything like this. We live in Connecticut. We don't have any diversity. We don't go out. This is our lucky break. So I just told them to go crazy, and they did. So I got really lucky with them, and I got to do some graffiti, some Spanish style graffiti, as I thought of it as well. So that was really, really fun project for me, and I hope for them as well. This is a different production. I did this in Los Angeles with East West Company. It's an Asian company, and the play is called M. Butterfly. And it's the modern take of the playwright is David Wan. And it's a modern take of Madame Butterfly by Puccini, but it's a story about a man. There is prison involved in this show. So I did research a lot of prisons and sort of created this world where a prison is also an opera house. And different levels of a prison become the catwalks of the theater. So I think that's what makes theater so wonderful, because you can create those transformations and you can see them before your eyes. And you can also see those things develop in time. Even when you start with the prison, once the prison transforms itself and becomes an opera house, you are there to witness the whole process. Of course, in the modern theater, not in the old style theater where you would see the curtain go down, then you hear weird sounds in the dark, and then when the curtain goes up, there is a new staging. No, in the modern theater, everything happens in front of you. If you're a good designer, you would make things unravel and develop and continue while the audience is present. So this was a really interesting show. I designed both sets and costumes for it. And actually, I came up with this idea where the two main characters, M. Butterfly and Pinkerton, reunite after M. Butterfly's death, Mr. Butterfly's death. And there was a little door, and you can see it in the sketches, that opens up in the prison, and everything was dark. And then at the end, when they reunite in heaven, so to speak, it's not in the play, but it's in the production. There's a little door with light opens, and they finally are able to embrace each other. So that was a really, really nice moment. And I loved when this extra level, like almost in music, extra track happens in theater. And same goes for books, where you can add something beyond the story to enhance the story. So maybe it's not even written in the text, but it becomes a part of the story visually, sort of like an extra level. So I'm always looking for that in theater, in books, in everything, pretty much. I think that's it's really exciting when you can add to what's already there. This is a really old production, but I like it. I did it as my MFA thesis, actually, and it's Equus. And it's a story of a boy who invents a religion, you can say. And he wants to become a horse, or he worships a horse. And my whole idea with it was that while you're not in the horse as an actor, as a character, you are a patient at a mental institution. That was in the play. But once you enter the horse, you are instantly transformed, and you're much more than that. And eventually, when the character leaves the horse for good, each horse becomes a shrine to that idea and to that religion, and to the innocence of the boy. So actors played the horses, and they played the patients, and also eventually the horses themselves became little altars with candles in memory of the character. So again, it's the transformation, the physical transformation, the conceptual transformation that happens to the actors. I can't even say to the characters, but it is a new layer that you can build on top of the story, because obviously in the play you have real horses, and to bring real horses on stage, or to dress two people in horses, the upper side of the horse and the back side of the horse, of course, would be ridiculous. So as a designer, your task is to find a way to do it elegantly, and to stylize that world, and to create an alternative world. So once you're in that world and you understand its rules, you just begin to follow those rules as an audience member. And while I was working in theater, I really fell in love with theater posters. And I do all posters for my own productions, but I also do some posters for others and for other companies. And this is an interesting company in Santa Barbara. I do posters for them for many years, and this one is for the entire season. That's why sort of the design treatment is the same or similar, in the same style. And I really love theater posters. I love them because they're so precise, or if you're lucky, they should be precise. And the idea has to be so immediate, because with a book, you have a little space to develop your idea. But with something like a poster, you have to have your idea so condensed and presented immediately for anyone's interest or understanding. And I think of a theater poster as a little glimpse into a future production. So not so much into the play, but into a specific version of a play. So for example, Hamlet, this particular Hamlet, there was a light bulb that was really important in that production, and I wanted to include that sort of unstable, swinging light. So you would get some sort of a hint of what's to come, but you wouldn't know until you see the play. So once you see the play, you go, oh, yes, I think I saw that light bulb somewhere, and now I understand the connection. So I really like to look for things like that, to have that hint of what's to come in a poster. And here's the Cherry Orchard, which I really loved. And I watched it. I didn't design this production, but as I watched it, I saw them drinking tea, because it's such a stereotypical idea about the Russians of, you know, constantly just sitting and losing time and drinking tea and talking nonsense and not doing anything. And I thought, I just want to push it even further, of how you just sit there with those dying cups of tea and nothing really happens. And your tea dies, it's getting cold, and you die, and everybody dies. And that's kind of pure Chekhov for you. And the next one is King Richard II. And again, it's one of those plays, and you know, Shakespeare has several of those kings, and usually they're all villains and really nasty characters. And so is King Richard II. But the way this production worked, I designed this one as well, as a scenographer and costume designer. This one was really all about innocence, and how a little child is taken and turned into a monster. So I really wanted to show that. I don't know if that's necessarily an idea of Shakespeare. I think it was mostly the director's idea, but I really loved it, and I went with it. And I think even in this poster, this really innocent child and the shadow that his throne casts gives you that hint of what's to come and how the production is going to be. So in a way, I think it prepares your viewer for the future production. You sort of know what to look for. And if you don't, you get intrigued enough to anticipate something interesting. And in general, I think for the posters, as well as for book covers, I would say something that gives you an immediate idea or immediate impression. It's important to have a good mixture of clarity and mystery. So some things should be very clear. Maybe the mood, maybe there's an element that's clear, but there should be something mysterious as well. So it draws you in and it makes you wonder, because if it makes you wonder, it will make you go and see production, or it will make you turn the page and so forth. So a combo of clarity and mystery, I think, is the best recipe for this type of work. So these are more playful, for a more playful season. And again, we talked a lot about the mystery and the pirates and the playfulness of this. And again, you can see that I'm getting more and more into textures. And eventually we'll see that I'll sort of reach the tipping point and think I'm gonna go down now and reduce the number of textures that I've been using like crazy for years. So see, I'm getting a little easy on textures here. And if those are mostly hand-drawn, these are purely digital now. And as you can see, I started to simplify things a little visually as well. And in general, I'm going toward simplification. I really like this Dollhouse poster because I think it's one of my most precise ideas. And I think just by looking at it, you know what the story is about, or that's how I feel. So I really like it. And I like that I was able to tell this story in such a simple way without really dressing it up or making it too pretty. And it's been a few years. And I think if I were to do it now, I would have probably simplified it even more. I'm not sure how, but maybe even a flatter background. Like I would go sort of towards the simplicity even more. This is one of my picture books. It's a picture book for adults. It's called Rappaccini's Daughter, and it's a classics by Nathaniel Hawthorne. And it's the story of love and deception and death. And it is all rotates around this garden of poisonous plants that Rappaccini, the doctor, the scientist, grows. So again, I did it right after my trip to Italy, and Hawthorne is an American author, but he set the story in in Italy. And I just came back from Italy too, so I was really excited to use the inspiration that I got from the Uffizi and from Florence and Rome, everywhere I traveled. So you can see some of that very clearly in the shape of the windows. I get really excited about that, but I got especially excited about all the poisonous plants. And although they're not really mentioned in the book that much, usually they just are some mysterious poisonous plants. I actually researched a lot of poisonous plants, and I include the names of those plants everywhere in the book. So this is the evil Rappaccini, or not the evil, the poor Rappaccini, however you look at the story, and he's all covered with these names of different poisonous plants. I was really excited about that. So you can clearly see the influence of the Renaissance art in it, because the story is set in that time, but it is stylized, of course, to some degree. And you can also see that I'm experimenting with textures like there is no tomorrow, and this is probably was my most texturized period. And that's another one from the book. And here it's almost a quote from the Renaissance. And I love quoting. There is, of course, a huge difference between plagiarism and quoting. And I like where you can see that something is borrowed. Like you can see it in films a lot. Some films like Wes Anderson, for example, quotes all the time. And if you know your film's history, you would recognize those quotes. So same with art. If you know your art history, you would probably see quotes here and there. And that's another one, again, from the story. And while I was in Italy, I saw this farm where they had a collection of keys. And I took pictures of all those antique keys, and then I just had to stick them in. Obviously, they were not just for a decorative purpose. There was this whole story involved with the keys and opening secret doors. And then I thought, how wonderful. I've started my collection of keys, and this is the perfect project to use them in. So my big advice, if you see something cool, just grab it, because you know what, put it in your bank, and very soon, or not so soon, you'll be able to use it in your work. This is a book called Drop by Drop, and it's a story of Rabbi Akiva. It's the very ancient Hebrew story about a poor man who married a rich woman who forced him to study, and he ended up becoming a great famous sage once he finished his studies. So I was not really interested in the story of the sage, but I thought of this woman, how she pretty much saw a handsome shepherd and married him, and then tried to bring him up to her level. And somehow she succeeded. So I was really interested in that part of the story. It's a children's book. So I guess if I were talking to little kids, I wouldn't necessarily tell them that that was the angle that I took myself. But that was how I got myself interested in the story. And I just thought about their love, and I thought, okay, it's a children's book about a man, a poor shepherd becoming a sage, but I'm just going to do this book about love and how your love ages and how it continues through your old years, and maybe something that I should aspire to. So here's a couple more little spots from that book. Again, he studied while she became a poor woman. Her father sent her away once she married the shepherd. So she did all the womanly things while the husband did the studying. Visually, I was really inspired by the Russian iconography, Russian icons for this story. And funny enough, when I created this and I thought they don't look Jewish at all, I think I'll be criticized by my editors. My editor called and said, you know what, they look too Jewish. Can you make them slightly less Jewish? Can you make their noses a little shorter? And I thought they don't even look Jewish at all. They just look Slavic and Russian. And I borrow from a completely different source. So it's probably not very clear, but what I like about this approach is that it's like an Easter egg. It's like a little joke that you put inside your book or your theater production, and you just run with it. And you hope that someone will discover it, but if not, then it's just you laughing yourself, which is, not such a bad idea after all. And this is one of the final moments in the book when the husband and wife are finally reunited. He's done with his studies. And I just thought, I just want something super beautiful of these people loving each other and being old but beautiful. And I just went all the way out. And I don't know, I just thought about my own love and whether it can persevere, and ended up with this. This was a really fun project. It's a book about data. And I didn't know much about data before I started it. And I still feel that maybe I don't know much now. But the author actually explained the story really well to me. So it was sort of like a funny alphabet book all about data. So he would have to go over every single term with me and explain it to me because I know so little. And I would have to make a joke on top of his joke. So that was kind of interesting and really a fun, free experience because the author, the publisher really loved my work and I could do whatever I wanted and I felt extremely free with it. So I got super lucky with this one. That's another one from it. Again, you can see that I'm still not over textures. And that's another one and another one. So I hear that this book is really funny. All my nerdy friends got this book and they give it to all their nerdy friends, and everybody who works in data tell me that it's just incredibly funny. And I hope it is. I laughed when I did it, but of course, once I was done, I completely forgot about all the terminology and what it means. And This is a sketch, the original sketch that I did for this. It's a metadata, so it's one of those things that I do understand. And that's the final. And that's another one called Mind the Gap from the book. And here is also a sketch for it, the original sketch, the quick one, the pencil sketch, and then the final piece. And that's the one that I really love. It's called Wisdom. And the person was supposed to look very stupid in it. And I think I did really well. I just like his vacant stare and his face and how he just spills out nonsense and thinks so much of himself. So I really like this one. I actually have it framed, and it's my favorite from the book. And moving on to my children's books. Now I'm going to show you the books that I wrote and illustrated. And this was the first book that I wrote and illustrated. It used to be called The Secret Society, but then the publisher changed it to Anya Secret Society because there is this whole studies on how people like to personify characters, and titles often get changed by publishers. And on the left, you can see my original cover. And on the right, you see the cover that it came out with, because I was told that the cover on the left is too scary for the kids. Which brings me to the topic of what is scary for the kids and what is too simple for the kids. And it opens up a can of worms where what it is, who are those children that we write for? And do we condescend to kids? And shall we let kids get on their tippy toes and try to reach our level? So it's a big philosophical question that I'm trying to answer. And as a mother of kids, I think kids really would understand anything you tell them. But you have to go through a lot of negotiations in that department in general. So these are some of the sketches. This story is very loosely based on my life because I'm left-handed, and when I was growing up in the Soviet Union, being left-handed was really bad, and I was often told that I should use my right hand. So I was told that the left hand is the wrong hand and the right hand is the right hand. So I'm playing a lot with that in the story. And these are the sketches, and these are some of the interior pages. This is actually a true story from the book that happened to me because my mother didn't really pay attention whether I was left-handed or not when I was really a baby. And there was a lady in the park that noticed that I was left-handed because I pushed a ball with my left hand, and she pointed it out to my mom. So I started the story with this lady saying, "Your girl is left-handed," and she frowns. All the stranger characters, the strangers in the book, all photographic characters, so they all are collaged, and sort of my world and my characters and my secret characters, the left-handed artist that this girl Anya imagines as her secret society, they all drawn by hand. So there is this difference between sort of strange characters that don't support her world or are not part of her secret world, and characters that are. So the character finds out that there were artists who were left-handed, and apparently they didn't do anything wrong. And she imagines her world in which she goes out and she hangs out with Leonardo and Rembrandt and Michelangelo, who were left-handed. And that's where she's happy. And then there's a moment when she immigrates to America. So a lot of kids about books about immigration often show how exciting and fantastic it is to immigrate. So I don't think it's necessarily true. And I really wanted to show that it could be a really emotional, sad, confusing moment, instead of just sort of the exhilaration of moving to the new country and moving to America. So I was kind of trying to fight that stereotype as much as I could. And then my character comes to New York, and of course, New York is wonderful, and nobody cares whether you're left-handed or right-handed, and everybody's just mind their own business, and they live the way they like. And of course, I'm creating not the actual New York, but sort of the postcard of New York, sort of this magical, wonderful world. If you know Saul Steinberg, you can see that I'm giving a little note to him and a bit of a quote. I'm a huge fan of his, and I wanted to sort of say my little hello to Steinberg, the way Steinberg loved New York. Also an immigrant and a very old person, kind of like me. So I wanted to show the same, the same little detail, the same little hello from a different time, obviously now. And this is the moment when my character, she doesn't need her secret society anymore. So it's a sad moment in a way, because she says goodbye to her imaginary friends. I didn't. I keep my imaginary friends, but she did say goodbye. And I think it's a really sad moment for the characters, not so much for her. But I wanted to make sure that it's noticeable, that it's not great, it's over. It's sort of what's going to happen to them now. What's going to happen to all these great artists now? And this is my next book. It's called Typewriter, and it's about typewriter immigrating to America and becoming completely useless. And it's written from the point of view of a typewriter. And I thought a lot about things that immigrants bring with them to America, especially the Soviet immigrants, especially in the time pre-internet, when people didn't know what was available and what not, and they built this elaborate legends about what is missing in America. So many people brought many things that turned out to be completely useless. And I actually posted on Facebook several years ago, and I asked people to send me the list of things that they brought that ended up being complete junk. And I said, please don't post anything about the samovars and Dostoevsky. And of course people did, because everybody wanted to show that, yes, we didn't bring anything, but we brought Dostoevsky and we brought Tolstoy's volumes. But there was one person who said, I brought a typewriter, and I thought, this is perfect. There is nothing more useless as a typewriter, especially with the Russian keyboard. So the whole story is based around that. It's kind of a love story between the typewriter and her writer, who dumps her once he comes to America, because he buys a laptop. So this is some of the sketches that I did for the book. The original writer, as he was, and then writer who moves to America, and he's so exhausted from doing all kinds of odd jobs that he has no time to write, and he just sort of chills and promises eventually to start writing, but it just doesn't happen for a while. This is just a sketch I did of someone in New York, someone delivering laundry that I saw, that eventually made it into a book. That's why, like I said, like with the keys, I think being observant is really the most important thing, or the most important service you can do to yourself, and notice things, because you can always use them later. So this is one of the spreads from the book. The author doesn't take anything. He only takes his typewriter, because it's the most prized possession of his. And here's in New York, and of course, he doesn't have time to write. He needs to bake pizza and deliver laundry and sweep the streets. And here's the guy that made it into the book, almost intact, almost the way I sketched him originally in my sketchbook. And this is the one that you saw before. Also, the writer doesn't have any time to write. The most challenging thing about this project was to create the typewriter, because I didn't want anything with the feet and arms. So it was tricky to make something that would still look like it has character and moves around while still just being a typewriter, without really anthropomorphizing anything. And this is a sad moment when the writer dumps the typewriter, and typewriter says that it's read enough Russian stories to know it will begin to rain, and it did. And then everything ends well, because it's an American story, so it can't end badly. And a little girl finds the typewriter and makes her father drag it upstairs. And we'll see, maybe she'll become a writer and test out the Cyrillic alphabet. And this is my latest book that came out this year, and it's called Mona Lisa in New York. And it's a love story between the famous Mona Lisa and the graffiti character Tag. So I sort of came full circle, because all these years I wanted to do something with the graffiti. And I went to Naples before COVID, and I saw this in the Spanish Quarter, this amazing graffiti, which has the Virgin Mary on top, and then this weird body at the bottom. And I thought, I have to do something with it. I don't know, but I really need this. And I thought, yeah, I think it's going to be Mona Lisa traveling to New York and sort of somehow morphing into a graffiti character. So these are my sketches for the show, for the book. And if I could, I would have just left it black and white because I think it makes it really interesting, but I had to do color because it's a children's book and that's what my publisher wanted. And I wanted to include Renaissance characters here and there as little hints because they're among us, kind of like the aliens are among us in New York. I'm sure they are roaming the streets the same way I wanted to have the Renaissance characters roam the pages of my book. So this is the final. Actually, it's not the final. It's one of those almost finished pieces. I think it was a little different eventually, but you get the point. And Mona Lisa did come to New York in the 60s, but I wanted the modern life with the selfies and the sticks. And this is Mona Lisa traveling, and everybody's dying to see her in New York at the Met. And Mona Lisa running away from the frame, meeting her graffiti character, dancing on the High Line, which is a wonderful bridge in New York, Bridge Park. And then when Tag, her new friend, takes you back to the Met, he's devastated and he walks back home to Brooklyn. This is my sketch, and this is the actual page. But then everything ends well, and the love story continues. And I'll show you, before I run out of time, the project that nobody has seen before, because this is my upcoming book and it's called I Hate Borscht, and it will come out in April. And it's a story of embracing your own culture and your history and your food as well. So I'm getting away from all the textures and I'm embracing all the negative space. This is my new thing. So it's a story of a little girl hating borscht and coming to America and changing her life in a strange way. And this is the project that I'm trying to finish for 2 years. It's a graphic novel, which I'm illustrating about the Soviet Union. And I just wanted to include it because it is so different from everything I've shown you before. It's a completely different style. It's a purely digital piece. So I've done it all. Everything else I've done is a mixture of traditional technique and digital, but this one is purely digital, purely Photoshop. So it was tricky and it was a lot of fun. And I really wanted the film noir inspiration, and I'm still finishing that. I still have a long way to go. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I think we can use the time that we have left for questions.
All right, so we did get a few questions in the chat. If you guys have some more, please send them directly to me. So one of the students asked, how did you make the leap to trying a new area, theater design, or what inspired you? They're looking to do something similar and aren't sure where to start.
I think, like I said, I think it's all the same language. I don't see much difference in it. I feel like if you have a strong concept, if you love the story and you have something to say and you know how to turn any story into your story, you can do it in any way. You can do it in a two-dimensional way, in a book or in any type of illustration, editorial illustration, and you can do it in theater. The only difference in theater is that theater deals with time. You have a certain time frame in which you need to fill all your ideas, and that could be a little tricky. But I think if the idea is there, the concept is there, I would say go for it. It's very similar. There is really no difference.
And then someone asked if you have an Instagram that they can follow to see more of your work.
I do. Yeah, it's
get that in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put it in chat.
And then, oh goodness, now we've got a few more questions. Someone's asked if you could talk about your process for developing your book ideas. Do you start with images or story arcs? How do the images dialogue with the words as you decide what story to tell and how to tell it?
I often start with a story. Like I said, I do collect images. I feel like at this point in my head, there is quite a large bank of ideas already. So I can always go in kind of like, you know, I stock, but it's my stock. So I can go for those. But for books, I often start with a story. Find something interesting, maybe just a line that's interesting. Like, for example, with Typewriter, I've been thinking about all these objects for many years. I never thought of them as a book. I just thought people are crazy. They bring the craziest things with them when they immigrate. And just that idea sort of stewed for a long time until it became a book. So I would say you need to have patience and know that some things will take a long time. Like I know that I have a little idea, but maybe it will develop much later. And visually, a story dictates you what it is. For example, if you want to do a book about a subway car, you think of the words, but instantly you think about the shape of a subway car. So you think, maybe this book is going to be set in a landscape orientation. Maybe every page becomes its own subway car. So I think words give you advice about what to do with your images, but also images suggest you what to do with your words. So it's a three-dimensional process. You have to kind of look from every direction.
Awesome. And then someone's asked if you have ever considered doing, or if you have any experience in doing illustrative work or production design for film.
I've done some independent work for film and animation. And yeah, and I'll be happy to do more. I think, again, it's very similar to theater. You just have much more to deal with. And in a way, it's easier because you can come closer and you can go further, and film can do anything. So yeah, no, I would definitely embrace that. If I can do more of that, it would be really fun.
How do you feel you expand on the written narratives you love and that inspire you so much to create new visual narratives? How do you create something new in a world where originality is fleeting? There seems to be a very fine line between what is appropriation, borrowing, and parody, and what is considered plagiarism and copying.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know. I think you just have to be true to yourself and hope that what you came up with is not something trite. You cannot be sure. You may feel very emotional and connected to the material, but it may be something that's very banal. I think we all experience that in one way or the other. I think you can only hope. And same goes for developing your personal style, especially now when you get to see so much great stuff, and you're so easily influenced by others. It's so difficult to stick with what you know and understand. And can you trust yourself with being unique, or are you even unique? You don't know. I think it's one of those questions that you can only hope to answer correctly. You can only hope to do the right thing, but you can also fail. And I guess it's okay, because you can always try again.
Someone asked in the chat, what is the favorite thing you own, the thing you would bring with you?
Oh my God. That's really tricky. I don't know. My phone? I'm so addicted to it. And then I have my entire world and all my friends at my fingertips. I don't know. You know what? I'm really attached. I have this pencil. I'm looking at it right now. That's why I looked and I thought, yes, I'll bring that. I have this pencil, which is a black pencil. I bought a set of color pencils at a yard sale. And this black pencil, this German pencil, is the best black I've ever encountered. It's just, the way it touches paper is erotic. It's the most wonderful thing. And right now it's about this small. So I actually had to buy a very expensive, much more expensive than that set, special pencil extender. So I think this would be the pencil that I will take along with my phone.
If anyone else has any more questions, we've got a couple more minutes. It looks like we've answered everything so far in the chat. Oh, someone wants to know, can they have the brand of that black pencil?
Oh God.
Carandash.
No, you can't, because I don't know where it is. I have to look for it, but I can find it and let you know if you want. I can tell Igor.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, Yevgenia, may I ask you directly? Something was on my mind. Inside of you, I mean, you touched on so many things, and it was beautiful presentation, definitely. But I'm really curious to know, like, from your insights, and are you consider yourself illustrator or painter or just artist, or how you go with you, because you created so many things in different genre, and we understand it's, you know, for you it's all the same, but somehow you're like, for example, I feel my, you know, I always think of myself just as illustrator, and I just wanted to hear from you what you think of yourself as a creative person.
You know, I remember our conversation about this, and I remember how you said that you always think of
Yeah.
yourself as an illustrator. And you know what's tricky? I think because we both speak Russian, I would say I'm an artist, because in Russian, the word artist doesn't have that glare, that shine that is that exists around this word in English. Because once you say an artist in English, it just has this really grandiose glare, and the word artist in Russian just means that you're an artist, but you're also a maker. So I guess I should call myself a maker. And yeah, just leave it at that, because I feel if I start going into interdisciplinary artist or artist slash painter slash illustrator, it's just going to make me bigger and bigger, and I just want to remain a normal, at a normal size. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
I just want to say thank you for everybody. I graduated from Webster in 2008. It's been a long time, and I'm an educator now, and I teach art, and it's really just great to be here. And thank you guys. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm also, you know, I think I'm also a maker. You know, it's funny that we have to decide, isn't it? And like there's like this weird, like if we say it, we can never change it.
Right.
Know? And I think
so
that,
true.
you know, especially in art school, you know, you got to pick, you know, what are you going to be, you know, and I got a BFA in painting, you know, because I had to pick one, you know, it's like, no, I'm just a maker. So,
but I also noticed that there is so much, I wouldn't say judgment, but so many expectations of you. And in my case, if I say, I just had an exhibition, people say, oh, so you're completely giving up on theater. Or if you say, I just did a theater production, someone will say, oh, so no more books. So it's like you have to fulfill someone's expectations all the time with that. So yeah, I think a maker is a good word. And then everybody can just leave you alone, and you can do a little thing with the little pencils.
right. Love it.
So should we expect more theater productions anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, but I hope so. I hope in the future, because I really love it. And theater is very difficult, and it involves a lot of people, and books are a little easier. Fine art is the easiest because you're by yourself and you don't have to listen to anyone. But I'm hoping to revisit it. Yeah, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, but really every of your picture books is a little theater performance, and I particularly drawn into your art and books and theater and everything, because it's all theater pretty much. It's just with books, it's your own personal smaller theater, and with theater you just part of big team collaborators working with designer, and it's sometimes getting too too crazy.
Yeah, well, you need to look for your allies. Like in any job, I'm sure, in any profession, especially anything collaborative, you have to find your allies. If it's like marriage, you know, you have to be with the right person. Creatively, it's a creative marriage, even if it's a short-term marriage, just for the duration of the production development, you have to be with the right people. Otherwise, it's a forced marriage and it never quite works out. So yeah, find your allies if you can, your creative allies.
I think that's the best comment. I like the comment. But I think we have to close this lecture. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture, and then thank you everybody for coming. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Evgenia, for wonderful lecture, wonderful insights. And thank you for everybody.
And Xenia, there was a lot of great comment on the chat from everybody, so I will be sending you the chat, but you.
Sounds good. And I'll find that pen